All right, in this lesson, we're going to be looking at how to create a virtual product box. Now, this is something that you'll create if you're going to be selling items on your e-commerce store that aren't actual physical shippable items. So for instance, maybe it's access to a PDF, or maybe it's access to a music or a downloadable file like a song or something like that. Or maybe it's a software as a service where you're selling a subscription, a monthly subscription to a service. So all of those things are things that can be sold through an e-commerce website, but they're not necessarily tangible products. But we still need a way to display them inside of our web stores so that people can click them and purchase those services. And so we need to create what's known as a virtual product box. And the idea behind these is that you still have a sort of a physical looking box, but there's really just, it's a placeholder for a digital item. So an example of this is like, let's say you have your tax software, maybe you're downloading TurboTax or you're buying that online. So you could go to Staples or something like that and purchase a physical product and they would come with a CD. Or you can go online and buy it and it's going to look the same. It looks like a physical product when you add it to your shopping cart, but there's no actual thing that's shipped to you. It's just a digital download that you download the software on your computer and activate. So we're going to be creating that virtual product for those instances in this lesson today. Now I've got here a box. So step one is you need to sort of find a blank white product box that you can use that fits your sort of idea well. And you're going to have to, of course, design your own logo and your own text and your own sale price and the stuff that will go on the box you'll need to design. For this simple exercise today, I'm just simply going to be placing a few pre-built graphics on this and not designing it from scratch. So I've come over here to the website pixabay.com. And this is the website also where I did get this product box. So I'm going to be downloading this image called About Us with this little person over here. This is the actual box that I got right here, the product box. I'm going to be getting this little logo right here, this origami bird, and then this little sort of badge right here. So whatever assets, right, they're going to belong on your box, you would go ahead and download those. But those are the few assets that I'll be using here. So once you have that, you need to get back into Photoshop and open up your product box. The product box is going to act as your base layer. And then we're going to import all of the other layers one by one. So let's go ahead and say File, Place Embedded. And I'm just going to choose each of these and place them. The sizing of these layers honestly doesn't really matter at this point because we're going to be wrapping these inside of a 3D space in your product. So I'll just place each of these one by one. And you can also do the same thing with text. Mine are all graphical images, but I'll do a little bit of text here as well. So I've got those layers, and then I'll add one more layer here, and I'm just going to make a little text box. And I'll just, can we do some lorem? Whoa, that text is massive. Let's go down to 14 point or something, maybe even smaller. We'll go down to 12 point and just have some dark text here. Lorem ipsum. Maybe I'll just go copy and paste some of the text off of one of these pages right here. Except there's not a lot on there, isn't there? Sure, we'll grab all this text, come back to Photoshop, and I'll just sort of paste that in there. So we have something there. Looks like my settings are really crazy for my line height as well. So we'll do that. Okay, so there's some text. Great. So I've got these few little items here. Now I'm going to hide all of these layers just so I have my background box. And the first thing you want to do is duplicate your background layer. And this is important. So I need to duplicate this background layer so I have 2 copies of that. And the very, very background one, I'm actually going to turn off just so I don't accidentally mess it up. And we're going to be working with this duplicated copy here. This is a destructive command. So every single thing I do to this box will sort of destroy the pixels. In other words, it's not a non-destructive workflow. So I always want to make sure I have this backup layer, which we'll use in the very end. Okay. Now the first step is we need to create inside of Photoshop what's known as a vanishing point filter, which is going to create a 3D sort of mesh and grid around my box. So let's come in here to the filter menu with this layer active and go down to the, make sure you select the layer and go down into the vanishing point. Okay, so this brings up kind of this weird little dialog, but it's a fairly simple dialog to use. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a plane that wraps around this box. Now, in this vanishing point filter, it's actually not a full 3D plane. It's a 2D wrapping plane. You'll see what I mean in a minute. But I'm just going to start out here with this sort of front-facing plane here. So I'm going to click down on this corner, and then I'll move up here to sort of this top corner area, and then I'll move over here to the right corner and then back down to the bottom corner and click right there. Now, once you've created your plane, you can pull out the sides of the plane. When you hover over a middle point and you see that little grid icon, that means I can click and drag. Whoops, sorry, I'm on the wrong tool. Make sure you get the Create Plane tool active. And then this, you can see, allows you to click on the corners and drag out what are known as editing planes. So I'm going to click on this middle one right here, and I can pull out, don't do that. I got to delete this one in a second. Let's go select this one. There we go. And now I can pull out this plane up to this angle over here. And you can see that that angle's not quite right. It's a little bit off, which is to be expected. So I'm going to pull this point in, and I'm going to grab this point and pull this point in to kind of fix that plane a little bit. There we go. And now I can scale this back down a little bit. Right there is much closer. Perfect. So I've sort of got this wrap, right? It's going up and then it's going over. And then now I can either from this side, I can pull this way, or I can go from the top and pull down. I've got to decide, but either way, I'm going to have a seam somewhere where things won't wrap. So for me, I'm going to come to this side and I'm going to select this point. Make sure you have your tool selected again. And I'm going to tear off that secondary plane this way up into this angle right here. Okay, so that looks great right there. So now I've got my 3 planes set with the vanishing point filter. So it wraps up and over this way, and it wraps over and over this way. It does not wrap from here and down because there's a seam or a tear along this side. So keep that in mind. Okay, so now that that's set up, I can go ahead and hit OK. That was just setting up the filter. And now we're going to place graphics and wrap them along those planes. So the way you do this is you simply turn on the layer you want to paste. So I'll turn on this layer, turn off my background layer, select that layer, and then we're going to do Command A or Control A on a PC, select all the pixels, and then Command C, Control C, that means copy. So that's going to copy all those pixels. I'm going to turn that layer off and turn it back on my background copy. So this one's back visible. I have that little badge thing that I have selected in my clipboard currently. That was what Command C was for. Now we're going to go back to the filter menu. Make sure you select the background layer again. Back to filter, down to vanishing point. And then here we're going to paste. So just do a Command V. And then this is obviously way too large, so I need to scale this down. So I'm going to grab my scale tool over here called the transform tool. And I'm just going to grab these corners and pull this down to a size that makes me happy. So maybe I'll grab right there. That's fine enough for me. And now you can see as soon as you drag it over your box, notice how it's automatically wrapping and warping along those planes. So I can warp it on this one. I can warp it on this one. But notice if I come up to these two, it's not going to warp, because that's where that tear is, the seam. So it can't roll across those. So anyway, I can kind of pull this badge up. I could have done another plane actually up on here if I would have wanted to, but I'll just kind of stick this sticker over here somewhere to illustrate the point. So sure, right there. All right, hit OK. Now I'm going to come down here and notice that that was destructive because this background layer now has that set as permanent pixels. So once you hit OK, you're committing that. You can't undo it. So now I'll turn on this layer and again, make sure that layer is selected. Command A, Command C for copy. Turn that off, turn back on the background layer, back up to the filter vanishing point, and we're going to then do another Command V for paste. And again, we got to scale this down. So grab this transform or scale tool. Make sure you hold down Shift so you're scaling proportionately. I don't know, maybe we'll stick this guy right like so. Now that's kind of weird, but I'm mostly just doing this to show you how it wraps. So we'll place him right at the bottom, right there, and hit OK. And that's just kind of rinse and repeat here. So I'll turn that off. I'll just turn on this one, Command A, copy, hide that layer, turn the background back on, select it, filter, vanishing point. We're going to come in here and Command V for paste. Grab the transform tool, scale this guy down, hold down Shift. And I should have done another plane. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll do one more plane up in this direction. So let's grab my Create Plane tool and pull one straight up right here, just for fun here. So I'll pull another plane right here. That'll be great. And then, whoops, I already committed that. I should have created that plane first. So let me actually cancel this, go back to filter, vanishing point, and create this plane right here first. So I'll grab this, pull this one straight up along the top here. Then I'll do a Command V for paste, and then drop this guy up in there. Just so you can see I can also warp up along that one. So that's kind of, again, goofy, but that's fine enough. Okay, hit OK. And then lastly, we'll drop in the text. So I'll turn off the text, turn this on, Command A, Command C. And whoops, make sure you have that layer selected, Command C. Turn that off, turn back on my background, go back to the vanishing point. You can see this is kind of just rinse and repeat here. And Command V for paste. And I don't know, sure, drop this down somewhere along here. Need to resize it. And sure, drop it in right there. Okay. So you can see that you can then sort of place these graphics in this fake sort of 3D space and wrap them around a fake box. Now, the only problem at this point is you can see that it's a little bit non-realistic because, right, there should kind of be a highlight across here. There should be a highlight across here where those are sort of wrapping. That one looks goofy. It wrapped funny. So we need to create that as well. So what we're going to do is that's why we have this backup layer. So we're going to take this backup layer. Let's double click to get rid of it so it's not a background layer. And I'm going to drag it to the very, very top of my stack. So above everything else. This will then allow me to mess around with blend modes to sort of get those highlights to come back in. So I can click on the little normal drop down here. And I'm just using my down arrow to cycle through these various blend modes. And you can kind of see when I cycle like on that linear burn, whoops, you can see it gets that highlight back and that highlight back and that little line back as we're cycling through some of these. So basically you just want to come in and pick one of these that you think works well for your specific use case. So soft light is actually not bad, I think. So I liked linear bird. The difference ones aren't overly helpful. So I liked soft light, or I liked linear burn, color multiply. Those are all actually decent. So color burn, I'm going to go with color burn. Okay, so we'll set this to color burn. And I'm going to show you the before and after. So you can kind of see, watch along this sticker right there. It kind of looks fake, but when you add in that little thing, oh, now I can see the rest of the product box, and that's looking a lot more realistic. So that's kind of then the final process. So then once you have your product box all set up the way you want, you would then just simply export this. So you'd say File, Export, and we're going to export this as a JPEG or something like that, right? This is obviously a huge image. It's 1920 by 1280. But I'll just export this as is, and I'll just save it here to, I don't know, maybe my downloads. Save that. And then now I can come over to my e-commerce site and upload this as my virtual product. So if we come back over here, let's come over here and log into the e-commerce site. So I'll come back to my dashboard and I'll come over here to my product pages. And I'm going to click add new product because I don't have a virtual product yet set up in my particular shop. And I'll just call this fancy virtual box, fancy thing. And it's going to be a virtual, and it's also going to be a downloadable. So then I would just go ahead and add the details like usual, right? $15, it's going to be on sale for $12, just like we learned before in our previous files. So the downloadable file is the file that the user is going to get access to when they download this virtual product. So this would be the actual PDF or, MP3 or whatever you're going to be granting access to. So I'm going to click add file here and I'll say choose file. I don't have a specific file in mind, so I'm just going to say that they're going to purchase this picture of a hammer. Sure. When they buy this product, they're going to be able to download that hammer, and that's what they're going to get. So downloads, I'm going to say they only get one download, and it expires. You can put the number of days here. Let's say 30 days. So if they don't download it within 30 days, that's it. I don't want typically you don't want indefinite access forever and ever, but you could have a year or something like that is not unreasonable either. Okay, then I'll come down to inventory. I'll just call this virtual-1 or something. And we're going to say, yeah, manage stock. And we're going to say, sure, I have 5 of these images in stock. And we don't need to do any links or upsales or any of this other stuff. That's pretty much it. So now I'll just add my product image. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to upload that fancy new virtual product box that we downloaded. So let's come over here to my downloads folder. And let's see, where did it go? It's one of these. There it is. So I'll upload that here and I'll give it the alt text. And I'll just call it my product box and add that one to the gallery. Oh, whoops. I didn't even pay attention. I clicked on product gallery instead of product image. Whoops. Oh, well, I'll just set that for both of them for now. I don't really have a gallery of separate images set up. You can have a whole bunch of images if you want. This is kind of like what Amazon does. Whereas if you have a single product, but you have multiple images associated with that product, you can upload those. So I might as well add another one so we can kind of see how that looks. But now I've got 2 images set there and I've got my main product image. Okay, things are looking good. I'll put this inside of I got to create a new category, right? Because this is a virtual product. So I'll create a new category for virtuals and add there. And I'll say a hammer because that's what they're buying. Okay, now I've got all that product set up here. I didn't add a product short description. Probably should. We'll just add that there and hit publish. Okay, so now this should be set up. So let's go back to my front end of my website. So visit my site. Remember, we already set things up so where my homepage content is now static and the marketing material is in the blog page. And if I come over to shop, I now should see that virtual product. So I can come in here and click on that virtual product. And here is the product gallery like I was mentioning to you. Whoops. So it's showing all those various images there. And then there's the actual image. I can buy that, add it to my cart. Now I can't actually check out at this point. We still haven't completed that process, but I can add it to my cart and then view my cart. And then when I check out, this product is going to be a downloadable link that'll get emailed to me. So that's pretty much it for setting up your virtual products and wrapping those inside of a Photoshop fancy box. So in the upcoming lessons, we're going to finish off a few of the WordPress WooCommerce settings, specifically for shipping and shipping tables and taxes, and then integrating with our payment provider so that we can actually then do a full, complete checkout process and walk through all that. We'll be setting up reviews and a few things like that too. So that's all to come, but we're getting near the end.